I'm Annie Elison, your Kauai real estate pro. I have exciting news for people who own Agland on Kauai or who are looking to purchase Agland, and that is Bill 2933. If you watch my videos, you've seen videos on additional dwelling units, additional rental units, guest homes. And now, historically, these have mainly been permitted on properties that are zoned for residential use, right? And as long as you could complying with setbacks and the size of your lot and your capacity for sewer, you could build 3 dwellings on your property, right? You could build a primary residence, an additional dwelling unit, and additional rental unit. And there are some differences, and if you're interested, please look in the description below for links to these videos. The exciting thing that has happened very recently on Kauai is Bill 2933. Now, Bill 2933 was introduced primarily to allow for guest homes on ag land. The County of Kauai has not wanted to allow a lot of guest homes or just homes in general on ag land because Kauai has a dream of having an agriculture economy. And so they would really like ag lands to be used for agriculture production, which would be great, right? We'd all love that. It is the garden aisle. You know, you can grow just about anything here. With the rain and the soil, it really is like a Garden of Eden. Most ag land on Kauai is not used for ag production in a commercial way. So Bill 2933, which has passed, will allow for 1 guest house per dwelling. And even that 1 guest house per dwelling is a big deal. In the past, something that would be common is someone would take a 25 or 30 acre ag parcel and CPR it into 5 or 6 lots. Now, typically when you do a CPR on ag land, or historically when you do a CPR on ag land, one of the CPR lots would have guest house rights. People would pay extra for it because it does have more value, right? Where the one with a guest house rights, you can build a home and a guest house. The one without guest house rights, you're only building 1 house, no guest house, because it is zoned agriculture and the County of Kauai wants ag production. So this new law says any agriculturally zoned lot where you can build a dwelling, you can also build a guest house. Now it's important to know that guest house regulations have also recently changed. And by recently, I mean in the last probably 3 years. We copied a law on Maui. Previously, guest homes could only be 500 square feet and they could not have a kitchen. Now guest homes can be 800 square feet and they can have a kitchen. So what this does for local families, it allows the next generation to build a home on their family property. The way that it's going to help the County of Kauai and the people that live here is it will make the option of living here more of an economic reality. I think it's a great thing for the County of Kauai. One of the stipulations with this bill is that the guest house can never be sold separately from the home, right? So if you're building it, you can't subdivide it and sell it off as a single family dwelling. You can't CPR it. The house and the guest house will not be able to be legally separated. They will remain as one property and 1 unit that can be sold. This bill also prohibits the guest house being used in any kind of transient rental situation, right? So on Kauai, long-term rentals are 6 months or longer, and anything less than that is considered transient or short-term renting or a short-term rental. Those will not be allowed in these guest house. Now, that's okay, and it's probably important that it's in the law, but there is no agriculturally zoned land in VDAs. And if the property doesn't exist today, it's not getting a TVR or a vacation rental license. So it's a little redundant, but it's great that it's clear. The intention is to create housing for people who live on Kauai, either for people who already live here or for people who will live here. Workforce housing, local families. This is the intent of the law, to help those people have the ability to create housing for themselves. So this bill was introduced by Mel Raposo and Billy DaCosta. I think it's a great bill. It might be my favorite bill, real estate related, that has been introduced to the county council members since I've lived here. I could be wrong, maybe I'm forgetting something, but I think it's really incredible for the people who live and work on Kauai. Historically, what would happen is on Agland is you can build a barn, right? And people would, a barn can be used in a lot of different ways, but it's not a legal way to create more housing. And so the fact that you can now build an additional dwelling unit, the fact that you can now build a guest house and you can have a kitchen, it's going to be a great help to the county of Kauai and the people who live here. It enables them to do this in a legal way that will add value to their property. Some of the people who did not support the bill would say that this is going to create more urban-like areas in areas that should be agriculturally zoned. I mean, I say yes and no, right? And I say yes and no, but I mostly say no because there really is very few ag parcels or ag. There is not a lot of commercial ag production happening on the county of Kauai. Now there certainly is some, and there's some that's very successful. One of my best friends, her family are big taro farmers. There's also a very successful turmeric farm. There are people who are using Agland in a commercial way. It's just the small minority. Kiana Holt, who is the county planning director, and I'm a big fan of his. I think he's smart and creative and is really looking for solutions that will work for the people who live and work on Kauai. He said, one of the reasons why we need this and why it's going to be so useful is because of our sewer situation, right? Septic tanks and cesspools. So one of the things we run into, like the county has passed laws, as I've stated in this video, allowing an additional dwelling unit and an additional rental unit on residential lots. The challenge is if that lot is not in an area that has access to a sewer system, which is the large majority of Kauai, you can only have 5 bedrooms per septic tank. Or 5 bedrooms, and you can only have 1 septic tank per 10,000 square foot lot. So if you have a lot that's under 20,000 square feet, right, you're 3 dwellings with 5 bedrooms, most people would want to put more bedrooms in there. So even though we're allowing for more capacity, there are still real limitations in the execution of that plan. The county of Kauai initially did this in these residential lots because they do want the urbanization to happen in residential areas, not in ag areas, right? We love Kauai because it's open and it's country and it's beautiful, and we don't want a subdivision everywhere. If you own a home on ag land and you already have a guest house, or you were permitted to get an additional dwelling unit for some reason, then this new change in the law does not apply to you. You're only going to be allowed 1 guest house. So if you already have one, you don't have the right to build a second one. So a real challenge that could still affect your ability to build a guest house is access to water. If you've ever built or anything like that on Kauai, you might already know, it's not a secret, that the water department is the most challenging department to communicate with. It's completely possible that when you buy a lot on Kauai with the intention of building a house, that when you take your plans to the water department to get them to sign off on them, they will say to you, we're not allowing any more homes in that area because the pipe at the street needs to be widened. Now at some point we will get to it and we will widen the pipe, and at that point we'll sign off on your plans to build. But you either then have to pay a huge amount of money so that the water department will prioritize widening the pipe at the street, or you just can't build for a long time. Now on ag land, you do have potential other options like drilling a well or getting a well. If you can establish your own water source with either a well or a reservoir, you could be creative in getting around this. But you do want to be careful, and you would want to check with the water department about whether that area has maximized its density to connect to the pipe at the street. So I guess I want to say a big mahalo to Kiana Hull, to Mel Raposo, and to Billy Acosta for championing this bill, and to all the county council members who signed off on it. I think it's a great benefit to the people who live and work on Kauai, and I think in the words of Martha Stewart, it's a good thing.